Hey everyone, I was just cutting up my asparagus to fit in my steamer basket, and as I was cutting the tips off to fit in the basket to steam, it actually reminded me of a story that the Lord used in my life to help me in my walk with Him. So I want to tell you that story. So here's the story. There was a little girl and her family was making pot roast. And she had 3 generations of the women who would cook this recipe in her house that day. And so she thought, I am going to write it down. And she wrote it all down and she checked it over with her mom. Her mom said it was right. She checked it with her grandma. Her grandma said it was right. And at the end, she said, but wait a second, why do you guys cut off the end of the roast in the pan? Is it to absorb more juices and maybe be more flavorful? And neither the mom or the grandma could answer her question. And they said, you know what? Great grandma's in the living room. Why don't you go ask her? It's her recipe. Okay, we just make it. It's amazing. So the little girl goes in and talks to her great grandmother and she says, hey, great grandma, I'm writing down this recipe, but when I got to this part, grandma and my mom couldn't answer this question. Why did we cut off the end of the roast? Is it so that it'll absorb more of the seasoning and be more flavorful? To this, her great grandmother laughed and said, I don't know why they've been doing it, sweetheart. I've been doing it all these years because my pan's too small. So here's the moral of the story if you haven't caught on to it yet. Sometimes in life, we're doing things just because other people in our life have done them for years. And it tastes good, and it looks good, and it smells good. And then even other people in our family and our lives, our friends and our neighbors, are doing that exact same thing, and it's working for them. So we're like, no need to change it. No need to ask any questions, but there is, because you could be cutting off and wasting the end of your roast because you're doing it like everybody else. And so how did God use this in my spiritual walk? So when I was growing up, I was in Catholic school, and they would always say to me, Kelly, why can't you just be like all the other little girls and just do what you're told? And I would say back, you know what? I love Jesus, but you have to show me in this Bible where it says we got to light all these candles, where it says that we got to stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, pray all these long prayers, memorize these Hail Marys. Where in the Bible does it say if her rosary's gold and mine's plastic, does God care? So God really used this in my life to help me realize that He loved my questions, because the nuns and other people as I grew really hated my spiritual questions and my spiritual things that I was concerned about and wanted to know about. But inside, I felt like God, He loved it, and He was not afraid of me asking these questions. In fact, He wanted me to ask them, and He wanted me to ask them of the spiritual leaders around me for that very purpose, so that they could realize that they're just doing what's always been done, but it's not necessarily what's in the book or what you have to do to come to God. It's not what makes the recipe good, okay? So just think about that. It's a great story.